Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my good friend for yielding. And I want to thank my friend from Massachusetts for her work on this legislation. Representative Clark, obviously, sharing that story is extremely powerful. In the suburbs of Chicago, Mr. Speaker, somebody dies from using heroin every 3 days. Nationally, that statistic is 1 every 19 minutes. And every single one of them leaves behind a family in grief. Today, Mr. Speaker, I'm joined in the chamber by Chelsea LaLiberte, Jody Deichman, and Gary LaLiberte, the family of a young man from Buffalo Grove named Alex. Alex graduated from Stevenson High School. He played sports. He got good grades and made a lot of friends. A typical teenager that had his whole life ahead of him. But behind his happy exterior, Alex was sick. He was struggling with escalating drug abuse. During Alex's sophomore year in college, he came down with an unknown illness. He would go to the hospital, and he would get better, at least for a while. But then a few months later, he would get sick. He would be admitted to the hospital and again would repeat the cycle. His family didn't know it then, but Alex was dependent on prescription drugs and was suffering from withdrawal. Alex continued this pattern until just a few days before his final exams. At that point in time, Alex actually overdosed on prescription drugs and heroin, and at the age of 20 passed away. His family never even had the chance to seek help for his dependency. And unfortunately, this story is far too common across our country. As a father, I can't even imagine the pain of losing a child to a drug overdose. But sadly, too many families like the LaLibertes have experienced this loss. Heroin and heroin abuse has become an epidemic in our country. During my work as the co-chair of the Suburban Anti-Heroin Task Force, I've met countless families who have been affected by drug abuse, literally torn apart. This is not an isolated issue. It affects every community, every zip code, regardless of your socioeconomic status, regardless of your educational status. I talk to parents that say it's not in my community, and it is. It is in your community. Let me just assure you. My work with Live for Lali and the County Opioid Initiative inspired me to introduce this law with Representative Clark. Our bipartisan bill is named in Alex LaLiberte's memory. Lali's law increases access to life-saving antidote called naloxone, which in Lake County, Illinois, has already saved nearly 100 lives since first responders and the police force requested the opportunity to be able to use this life-saving antidote. The police officers actually would respond, would get there before the paramedics, often 5 to 7, sometimes 9 minutes faster, and refuse to sit by idly as they watch these young people die from an overdose. When used properly, naloxone helps restore breathing that has been stopped by an overdose. You've heard the statistics, but the World Health Organization predicts that increased access to naloxone could save another 20,000 lives each and every year. Lali's law is a decisive step to not only save young people like Alex LaLiberte from falling victim to drug abuse, but also help those in our communities struggling to get their lives back on track. Our bill, and frankly the work that's been done here in this body today, and I think we've got some 18 different bipartisan bills coming together to try to solve this prescription drug epidemic, this heroin epidemic that is sweeping our country, is proof of what is possible when we set aside partisanship and get to work for the people that we all represent. Lali's law has already brought Alex's story to the United States Congress and has amplified the life-saving benefit of Live for Lali's amazing work. Now, by passing this overwhelming bipartisan bill, we can ensure that Alex's lasting legacy includes helping countless others get a second chance at recovery and saving their families from the unbearable heartbreak. Mr. Speaker, together we truly can save lives. Again, I want to thank Representative Clark. I want to thank the La Liberté family. I want to thank the first responders, the stakeholders back in Lake County, and all those here in this body that are working to try to create an environment, create the opportunity for us to be able to take a huge step forward in combating this prescription drug and heroin epidemic. I want to thank the gentleman for yielding the time. I yield back.